Good morning. Socrates said before that the unexamined life is not worth living. And um, that's I suppose that's Socrates' take on it, but that would depend on a lot on your perception. You know what I mean? Like some people don't examine their lives, but they're perfectly happy with their lives because they're quite content in their lives. Such is their nature to be like they're quite docile and content by nature, but they don't really have to examine their lives. They're quite content by just um, letting life unfold, but they're not overly ambitious. They're not. Basically, what I mean is they don't get frustrated with their lives by wanting things to be different than they are. Do you know what I mean? They're by nature they're just content with their lives and as Epictetus said, don't wish for things to be any different. Wish them to be the way they are, and your life will go smoothly. Now, now, Stoicism is sort of full of contradictions because everything is really up for consideration. And this is why I say it's very important that Stoicism does not become a doctrine, but everything is like a thought. Everything, it can be very contradictory. For example, I want to give you an example of this because all my life, all these videos come from my own experiences. So I'm going to relate an experience yesterday. And maybe through these videos we can, you can start to understand life a little bit better. That's my intent. And we'll talk about intent in a minute. But yesterday appeared in my newsfeed now uh, a post by Greg Sadler, PhD. Now, Greg is a philosophy professor, teaches in one of the colleges in America, and I have watched a good bit of Greg's stuff. And I found some of his stuff useful. Like he broke down Hegel's introduction for me and it gave me a start on Hegel that blew my mind at the time. It's a little his breakdown, but at the same time, I prefer Dr. Sugru's lectures because Dr. Sugru, um, I prefer he leaves it more to my interpretation. He breaks it down, but then I like to comment on Dr. Sugru's videos, whereas Dr. Sadler before, when I gave my take on the myth of Sisyphus, he said you may read the work again. Now I don't need to read the work again because I can tell you now my teacher is a little bit better than Greg Sadler, and of that I'm fairly fucking confident. Actually, 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 of that I'm 100%. My teachers, when it comes to Stoicism, my teacher and philosophy, my teacher is a touch better than Greg Sadler. But anyway, saying that, I did find some of Greg's stuff useful, but that's because Greg's stuff was presented to me at various periods and times. But anyway, we won't go down that road. But yesterday, Greg Sadler, PhD's post appeared in my newsfeed, and it said how he blocks a lot of people, how he uses the block button a lot. Now this ties in yesterday with my video, but this is just more correlation and what do you call this? Synchronicity in life. But this is what's amazing when you start to observe your conceptual experiences, and you notice this synchronicity, how one thing blends into another, and all correlation. It's just fucking mind blowing at the start, but after a while you get used to it and you can start to play the game and you start to appreciate it and laugh at it, and it makes life really, really enjoyable. But anyway, when you're conceptualizing it at this level, it's a bit intense at times, but it can be really enjoyable. But so I don't follow Greg Sadler. I don't think I follow anybody. But anyway, Greg Sadler's thing came up in my newsfeed. I do follow Nifra, the DJ, yeah. But Greg Settler's post came up and was saying how he blocks people, and how he very quickly makes a decision when he sees someone in his newsfeed. He calls them trolls. Now this is a word that we'd really have to define the meaning of troll. But basically, a troll means somebody that causes you a mild disturbance, that you don't like what they're saying, and it might be one quote, it might be two quotes. So therefore, I in a lot of cases, I would be considered a troll. Even though I said, here's this I've said in many Stoic sites, I've been kicked out of all the academic Stoic sites, with the exception of one, the Practical Stoic, but that's more or less my group. My group from a metaphysical perspective. But anyway, I don't get kicked out of Practical Stoic, but and I've wrote a lot of stuff in the Practical Stoic. But the rest of them have been booted out because they have an academic understanding of Stoicism which does not align with mine. But then I have a lot of empirical knowledge and I have a better teacher. And trust me, I have a better teacher. But anyway, back to Greg Settler, PhD. And he was sort of saying how he blocks people. He blocks people because he very quickly looks at their comment, looks at their page, and makes a decision about the value of that they will be in any future conversations. So basically, if they don't align with his way of thinking, he blocks them. Or if they question his authority, or if they question his anything that causes him to question himself, he'll block them. Now, but as Epictetus said, hang around with people who will bring out the best in you. Now, a lot of people misinterpret this. Exactly what that means is this is like Diogenes was to Plato, he was a torment, or as like Socrates, they used to call Socrates a gadfly. They used to call Socrates a gadfly because he used to go around asking people questions in relation to in other words, not making a judgment, but ask them questions which caused them to question themselves, and which caused them to question their intent, which caused them to question their life, which caused them to question their actions, or basically their desires, aversions, or intent, but very largely their intent. Like very much like he used to go around and ask a lot of bankers and the more high power people, the wealthy people in Athens, what is the good life? What is the good life? Do you know what the good life is? And they used to say, and he used to question, is it wealth? Is it money? Is it power? What is the good life? Meanwhile, he was going around, starting at dinner time, in people's houses and going around from house to house drinking wine and being invited to symposiums and because people enjoyed his company, and people like he was the very man to have a symposium because he really got into the whole he had the same teacher as me, didn't he? Well, he couldn't have had the same teacher as me because my specific teacher was later in life than him, but at the same time he had a daemon, so he had sort of like Russian dolls, isn't it? It's sort of like Russian dolls. It's like my teacher's teacher would possibly have been his teacher, because like Russian dolls, do you know what I mean? Russian dolls, but this is nature, Russian dolls. So, for example, my soul's mother, and then my soul, and then now there's me. But Socrates would have had the same teacher. We just said the universe, but he had a daemon, a voice in his head, who more or less same as me. So basically, he was schizophrenic. Carl Jung was schizophrenic. Goethe was schizophrenic. Emerson was schizophrenic. But people don't understand this. But it was a daemon for Socrates, and nobody has any issue with this. But yeah, with anybody else, for example, me, I'm a madman. I'm schizophrenic. But that's because well, I seen Peterson yesterday talking about souls. I'm after digressing terribly now, but I'm talking about souls and talking about, that this is uncharted territory, And I said, oh yes, this is uncharted territory, but it's not where you're willing to go because it's outside the parameters of your dogmatic cognition, your dogmatic indoctrination outside the parameters of your cognition. In other words, it doesn't come within your rules. It doesn't come within your understanding. It doesn't come but you're not seeking to understand this. We was actually talking about souls being in the wrong body, but they're not in the wrong body. They're not in the wrong fucking body. Nothing, like as the Buddhists say, not so much as a snowflake falls out of place. But yeah, he has all this knowledge, but he doesn't have the empirical knowledge, and he's not seeking to understand in these cases. He just wants you to bring it within the parameters of his cognition, assert himself as an authority on the subject, and should you challenge that, you can fuck right off, because he's the authority on the subject, basically. Now, Greg Sadler, PhD, was the same. So when I just commented, he said he doesn't tolerate, trolls and everything. So I just put a comment and I said, you judged him, do you? So I said, you judged him, which was a statement, and then I said, do you? So it was a sort of a question I said, do you? You judged him, do you? And then, now he never has engaged with me much in the past, but again, it's a question of exactly how much free. It's sort of like, I could try and explain this, and I want to explain this, but how I explained this before is nobody wants to drive. Like, when it comes to having a choice of what car to drive, nobody wants to drive the Mini Metro as opposed to the Mitsubishi Evo. You know what I mean? or the Subaru Impreza. Dicked out to the last, or giving me my choice, I'll take the fucking John Cooper Works Mini that's fucking mapped out to the bollocks, because the Mini is one of the nicest little cars I ever drove. But anyway, so I said, you judged him, do you? And he replied, and he said, I'm judging you right now, asking silly questions rather than just making your point. And I just replied to him, and I said, is that not a Socratic method? Would that not be the Socratic method? And I said, and before he replied, and I just wrote one more thing, and I said, you being an ambassador of modern Stoicism and all. So basically I was challenging the fact that he was judging people, like, he wasn't embodying his philosophy. The philosophy that he is an ambassador for modern Stoicism. But basically he wasn't embodying his philosophy, and all I did was question this. I just said, you judged him, do you? Which called into question his intent, and right enough, he blocked me. But obviously this caused him a disturbance, but all I did is what the universe does. Like, for example, like the universe asked me before, are you enjoying your role? And I replied, oh yes, I'm loving my role as a raging alcoholic. And I was loving my role at the time as a raging alcoholic. I was living in hostel, drinking 6 to 7 litres of beer a day, and I can tell you, I was loving it. I had a fucking great time. And it was like a symposium every night. It was like a symposium every night, because it was surrounded by creative people, poets, artists, lunatics. And it was like a symposium every night. And I was having a marvellous fucking time. And basically I wouldn't allow anybody else to impose their morality upon me. If they said to me, oh, you're a raging alcoholic, or you're drinking too much, as the owner of the hostel came to me one day, and he said to me, Dave, like, you're drinking a considerable amount of drink. This was after I fell out through the doors, and I was on. I was leaning against the door very late at night. I fell out through the door. It was like a black hole swallowed me up. Everyone was laughing at it, because it was like the black hole. The door just opened and it disappeared out through the door. And then the camera showed me out in the yard rolling around, trying to, like a sheep on its back, trying to get back off the ground. I was a fucking bastard, like. But I talked to him, and I said, like, well, for starters, I'm Irish. It's our culture to drink. And I said to him about alchemy, like, but more or less how you have to meet people at their own level of perception. And I explained to him the reason, and he said to me, yeah, you're right, carry on. Because he's very much a man of reason. He's a lovely man, fucking fierce, nice man. And he's a man of reason. And when I explained to him the reason for the drinking and the unravel the ambiguities of it, he says, yeah, you're right, carry on. And he actually didn't come to me saying, you can't drink, you can't do this. He didn't know. He came seeking to understand, and we talked about it, and then he said, yeah, you carry on, because he could see the reason behind what I was doing. And this is, he didn't judge. There was no judgment. He came to me and we talked about it, and I said to him, like, that this is COVID times. All these people are here. Nobody wants to be controlled. So if you start trying to control them, it's like, they're going to leg it somewhere else, because the reason they're here is that we can be so free and we can enjoy ourselves, and we don't have anybody imposing their morality upon us or judging us. I said we've a tolerance for each other, and that's why it's so busy, and that's what made it a fucking great hostel, uh, packed all throughout COVID. I believe it's still packed, but anyway. Yeah, but then Greg Sadler, like, obviously was upset that I questioned his that question that caused him. I asked the question that caused him that this is why they didn't like Socrates. But yeah, but he blocked me. I was going to talk about Dr. Grease and her intent, and how I was going to question her intent, but I don't know if I could be bothered my arse. You know what I mean? Like she keeps coming up my news feed as well, but I don't know if I could be bothered my arse. Listen, I may go.